Do you think you'll ever move back to America, or no, or don't know?
I think I will, but for the moment, I'm perfectly happy staying in Asia, staying international. But for one reason or another, I'll probably end up moving back at some point in my life.
All right, good shit. Thank you, man.
Hey, welcome.
Sign my name with the feather, tap dance under the full moon. Smoking, drinking liquor for the fan that left us too soon. Just keep it trucking, searching more than
I've never been there.
Do you want me to grab that?
No, no. Maybe if we have longer. I did order a longer mic so we can just kind of clip, but it can't be too close to your face. That's all. Especially if you're laughing loudly. What's a quick pint?
So, quick pint. This was the first place that my classmates and I ended up going to on our first, like when we all started studying Chinese here together about 7-8 months ago. And it's literally just a quick pint. There's no sitting place. You just have to stand.
Like a pub?
It's not even a pub. It's literally like a
quick pint.
Just a quick pint. I mean, there's room for like 3 people inside, and then you could stand outside. So.
Oh, crazy! Is it easy to meet people like that?
Yeah, actually, you kind of can, but it's kind of like I don't know if you've been to the bars in I think it's Shinjuku area in Tokyo. They're very similar. Very similar. Only this one's half the size of those, and those are already small. But this is literally just a place for us to go to have 1 or 2 beers, and then decide where we're going to go after that. So.
Oh, dope! Like a pre-game.
And it's because it's closer to this area, so it's really easy for us to, go.
Have you ever been to the bar like right in the night market? There's like some guy. There's just a few seats. He like serves beer like to go out the window in cups.
It sounds like that's the one you're talking about.
Oh, it might be. Okay. If so, I've been there one time for a beer when I was walking around here with a friend.
Yeah,
I had it like out. There's like a window to like hand. Yeah,
it's probably the same. There's a window where you just hand it outside to him. Yeah. But you can go inside too. But it's standing room only.
But you can also just hang out around there.
Yeah.
All right. So first question for you: what do you think lives in this hole?
What do I think lives in the hole? That's fantastic. Fantastic question. I'm going to guess cockroaches.
Oh my god! Can you imagine if it was that big?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, there's so many cockroaches in Taipei, in Taiwan. So
there are. There is an abundance. I hope it's a bird or something cute, and I hope it comes to visit us. Mike D, you're from Michigan.
Correct.
And how many countries have you been to?
I'd have to look to confirm, but I think probably around 67 at last count. Around 67.
Approximately 60.
Okay, approximately 70, but a little.
Okay.
I think it's somewhere around there, but I'd have to. Yeah.
Cool. What was it like before we get on to your country thing? What was it like growing up in Michigan? Cold. Where are you from, by the way? I think I asked, but
which part of Michigan? So I was born and did university in Detroit area, Ypsilanti, but grew up in the Upper Peninsula. Spent most of my childhood in the Upper Peninsula. Yeah.
What's your reactions when people hear you're from the UP?
Almost nobody knows, right?
I guess outside of Michigan, even a lot of places in the States, maybe people wouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. So I never say that. I always just tell people I'm from Detroit area because everyone can kind of, at least they've heard of it once or twice.
Yeah.
Like the UP, most people in the States don't even know about it. So it's like, you're from Michigan, I know you're from Michigan.
Yeah.
I tell you that, you know exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't tell that to someone from Arizona. They'd be like, what is that? You know?
In Taiwan or places where people have comparable knowledge of the U.S., which is some but minimal.
Yeah.
Where do you say you're from? Also, just you're from Michigan, or you just say you're from the U.S. or?
U.S. first, always first. If they ask specifically, I say Detroit area. Again,
I always just say Michigan, and some people think I'm a douche for assuming. But everyone knows is the thing. Everyone does know.
They do know Michigan, really?
Yeah, definitely. 90% people. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm really impressed when people know like Great Lakes or Chicago. Those are usually the two things people will say.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna concentrate mostly on, because you said you spent some time in Singapore.
Correct.
And in England.
Correct.
And in Germany, although you haven't lived there proper, but you've kind of been there enough that.
Yeah.
Is it okay? So we narrow down on these countries. All right. So I'm gonna give you some trivia on these places. 5 questions each. The idea actually was, I just remembered now, if you get 3 out of 5, then you can have a beer, but you're already drinking it. So you better get 3 out of 5. All right. Which country do you want to start with?
Let's do Singapore, just because it's
most recent? Yeah. Okay, great. So, Singapore is one of only 3 surviving city-states. What are the other 2?
I would say probably Monaco,
Dude, nice.
and the other one would be not Liechtenstein because I've been there. The other one would be no, it's not even going to be that one. Vatican City.
Nice. Very impressed. Monaco, what's that like? Have you been to Monaco before? Why? What's the deal with Monaco? I have that name down. I don't even know what it is.
It's basically, I don't know the history behind it, but it's basically like it's an enclave on the southern coast of France, like tucked in between the southern coast of France, like the Genoa, Italy area, Marseille in between that area. It's just southern France, and southern France is really beautiful, really hot weather. It's all like just a really nice area to be in. Just tons of money. That's all it is. It's like if you've been to Dubai, super clean, super advanced, super modern. But then again, most city-states are well taken care of anyway, so they're not hard to manage, I would say. But tons of money, very wealthy place.
Do you find that some smaller places, smaller countries are, like as a trend, they can be a little bit nicer, infrastructure and everything?
So. Yeah, but I think there's probably a trend because it's easier to manage, I suspect. Singapore, for example, you can have a consistent policy over an area that's the size of. I mean,
it's a city, right?
It's
like
a city,
mid-sized city. Or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's probably easier to police. And generally speaking, cities are where most of the wealth is concentrated anyway. It's the rural areas where support tends to be lacking, or where the money doesn't come from, but you need to support that. And in general, city-states don't have that. They just have that concentration of wealth, and that's all they need to look after. So I'd say, in general, that's true.
Dope. I've heard mostly only good things about Singapore, except about the laws.
Yeah.
That's about that. We'll talk about that in a second. There is another Singapore in the world. No. There's another Singapore in the world. Where is it?
That is, I want to say, the U.S.
Nice.
Which state? I don't.
So by the way, I didn't know this until I Googled Singapore trivia.
Yeah.
But I thought this might be a nice connection. There's a ghost town, an abandoned ghost mining town in Michigan called Singapore.
Really?
I'm not going to give that one to you. You're still one for two because it's Michigan. There are 4 official languages of Singapore. What are they?
English, Mandarin, Malay, Bahasa Malay, and Tamil.
Dude, very nice. Very impressed. 2 for 3. The back of the $1,000 Singapore bill has what written in micro text?
Oh God, I don't even think I've ever seen a $1,000 bill.
Is that a lot of money?
You just, no one ever carries it. They use a lot more. They use a lot more card than they do norm. Anyway, what's written on the back in micro text? No, I'm gonna take a guess.
Okay.
Majula Singapura.
No, I don't know. It's the national anthem. If the national anthem is Majula Singapura.
I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I think that actually might be it. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Could be. The last question is okay. What's up with Singapore?
What's up with Singapore?
Yeah.
Singapore. It's a very vague question. Do you want me to be specific, or just give you a general overview?
Give me a general overview. You said 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. 4 years.
Super clean. Very, very, very efficient. Probably the most efficient place I've ever lived. Tons of money. Lifestyle is very convenient. Amazingly convenient. Best airport in the world. I've
seen pictures. It looks gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Fantastic, man. I mean, you could land. I actually timed it one time. I landed, wheels touched the ground, Changi Airport, and I was home within 50 minutes. Picking up a bag, buying some booze at the duty free, getting into a taxi. That's unheard of anywhere else in the world.
15?
50.
50. Okay.
Which
that is very quick. That is very, very quick.
Clearing customs and everything else.
From where you landed. You landed to your house.
Like wheels down. Like just literally touched the runway, wheels down. But I would have to say that it's also it's kind of a temporary place. If you're not,
it is. A lot of the people there are foreigners, right? Expats.
A lot, yeah. Tons of foreigners, tons of expats, and also domestic helpers, things of that nature. So I would say it's difficult to kind of really integrate in a way. It's not easy to make friends. People generally tend to focus on their own friends, their family, their work life, earning money, their career. They don't, it's really difficult to meet people, I found, that were Singaporeans. So in fact, other than work colleagues, who I do consider friends, when I left with no Singaporean friends. All of my friends were other expats, basically.
What's the kind of divide between like Singapore people and Malaysian people? I don't even know if that's a good question, but I mean there must be some like local Singapore people, and it's kind of like enveloped by Malaysia, right? Like there's this huge country next to it, Malaysia.
In a manner of speaking, so the brief history of it is they were actually part of a federation that lasted only about 2 years, I think. And there are a lot of similarities between Malaysia and Singapore. They have a similar racial makeup from compared to Singapore. They also have obviously the language is going to be similar. So the differences, I would say, I've heard it described to me by my Malaysian colleague. I've been to Malaysia quite a few times. And when I was there, I said, this reminds me of what Singapore was 20 or 30 years ago. And he said it's spot on. He agrees with that.
Really?
Basically,
okay.
Singapore is just... There's a lot of similarities between people, culture, and food. But Malaysia, I think, tends to be a little not nearly as well run. They tend to play more racial politics, maybe a little bit more corruption on the lower end, whereas Singapore is very...
It's a much bigger and poorer country, right?
It depends on how you want to define poor, but I guess you can kind of agree, maybe per capita, I guess you could probably say
Depends,
that.
right, yeah. I see what you're saying. I'm curious about Malaysia. I'd like to go there someday. People say it's dangerous?
Depends on your experience. I'm sure some parts can be. I never had a problem.
After being to approximately 67 countries, I guess, you have a lot of comparison, right, for different places. All right, we'll come back to Singapore. I definitely want to talk about it more, but we got more trivia for you. England or Germany? Where are we heading to next?
Let's do Germany.
Germany. Done. Who started and also lost both world wars? For all my German friends out there. Real question number one.
I won't answer that. I'm going to plead the Fifth Amendment. Yeah.
Can we do the German all in a German accent, the English all in an English accent?
I might be able to do it all in German actually as well too.
For real?
I do speak a little bit, but my Chinese is better than my German.
Okay,
I can
cool,
get by.
cool. Right on.
But I'm not going to speak it today. So.
Okay, I mean you'll impress me with anything.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
German wise. When does Oktoberfest start?
September.
How many kinds of sausages are made in Germany? I will give you to give you an idea of how many different kinds there are. I'll give you plus or minus 500. Take your guess.
Plus 500. I would guess plus 500.
No, there's not minus 500 different kinds of sausages made in Germany. You pick a number, and if it's plus 500 or minus 500 to the correct answer, you get it as correct. There are negative sausages.
Negative 32. Okay, I would guess 2,000.
Dude, you got it. Spot on. 1,500.
Really?
1,500 different kinds of sausages made in Germany. All right. German is an official language of 5 countries.
And you want me to name them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Germany.
Nice.
Austria.
Nice.
Switzerland. And 2 more. I'm gonna go with. What's the other one down there? Being there too. Liechtenstein.
Okay.
And one more.
It's another L.
Another L, huh? Luxembourg.
Very nice. Dude, do you do like trivia?
No, I've just been.
You'd be really good at this, I feel like. Okay, last one. This is maybe the most German question. I think I can't say the word. Schultute. Okay, can I show you the word?
Sure.
Don't cheat. Question number 5.
Schultute.
What is it? It's a tradition where first grade students receive what?
Schultute. Okay, I remember seeing a picture because I dated a German girl and she had pictures of it.
Oh, really? Kind of like graduation or prom? Like you get.
Yeah. It's like young kids. They receive this kind of a package in it, and I don't remember what's in it, but I'm going to guess it's like chocolates.
They're kids, right? They're mostly like chocolate. Yeah, pretty much candy, toys nowadays, depending on it could be a phone or something cool. Yeah, candy and toys. Dude, very nice. That was 5 for 5.
Sweet.
That was 5 for 5. Very impressed. You do. You get here beer number 2.
Thank you.
Right, but you gotta finish this, otherwise you just have to sit here awkwardly until you finish this beer.
We're gonna have to get more. You're gonna be the first person to run out of beer.
To be fair, like when I first started doing these, I would always drink beer. At least me. Even I'd be interviewing some people who weren't drinking beer. I'd at least drink it. I just feel like everything is like more smooth. It's just more fun, you know.
Yeah.
Like, do you listen to any podcasts like or Joe Rogan?
No.
Okay. You have listened to podcasts before. There's like so I think one of the reasons Joe Rogan is so popular is just because it's so casual. It's just chill. It's just fine. It's relaxed. Like, you know, where there's like it's obviously not something he has to be doing.
Yeah.
Where you listen to some like news podcasts or commentary on, you know, current events or sports or something, and it's like this is a job.
Yeah.
You can tell this is a job. They wrote a script. They got to show up and do it. You know. And so the beer kind of takes it away from that a little bit.
Yeah, you just relax and chill, and it's just a conversation over a beer, which you'd have in a pub anyway, right?
Exactly. Same thing. The only issue is being able to mic people up during the real beautiful moments of conversation in bars.
Exactly.
We'll get to that maybe episode 100. I'll just say, hey, Mike, you want to hang out? That'll be it. All right, on to England. I feel like this one might be the toughest, to be honest.
I think so.
Yeah. So you lived in Singapore for 4 years, and you told me Germany you visited just a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
Can you actually, before we go on, why have you visited Germany so much? Do you have family connects?
It was the first country other than Canada, which as an American, when you go to Canada, it's not really international.
It's America.
It's like our friendly neighbors in the north. They're like nice Americans, basically.
Yeah.
So the first country outside of the U.S. really that I went to is Germany. I studied German for a year in university. My first serious relationship was with a German girl. So I'd always had that connection with Germany, and I really liked it. It's in my heart. Yeah, definitely.
I've heard that from quite a few people about, especially like one of the first places they travel. You know, one of the first places they spend a lot of time. Like it's always a special place, even if you see more of the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's just because of that, I'll always remember that was the first place I went to, and it made a huge impression on me for just a vast number of reasons. And then once I lived in London, it was so easy just to grab a flight from London and go to Germany for a weekend, and so it was very easy to do. And then the last bit was meeting Germans. I could connect with them very easily because they kind of all have a similar way of going about life. They're always very cold on the outside. It takes a while to get to know them, but once you show them that you're an honest person and they can trust you, then they'll be a friend for life. So I was always going to visit friends in Germany and all over the country.
So that's interesting. You say leaving Singapore, you left with zero Singapore, actual like local friends, but Germany, like the reason you love it so much is the people, essentially. Is that a big part of it?
I think that's a part of it, for sure, absolutely. But it's also the scenery, the lifestyle. Germany, you have, I'd say that's accurate, yeah, definitely.
What about the lifestyle? The food, the 1,500 sausages?
I certainly, the 1,500 sausages. The food is definitely amazing, for sure.
Okay.
Although I think Asia has the best food, personally. But the food's good. But it wouldn't be that so much. I do like the beer, obviously, if you're a beer drinker, which I am.
Yeah. How about Belgian or German?
German, definitely.
For real?
Yeah, absolutely. Belgian is good, but Belgian is just like, let's make this 8, 9, or 10%, and it'll become popular. And I think that's what they've done. It's good beer, but it's just really strong. Do you know what I mean?
I always feel that American beer, I feel like American beer has to be the best just in this way. That there's so many breweries everywhere, and we're so creative and so interesting with them. I think it's just like a hobby a lot of people have, and America just has too much money. So there's just a lot of people, they have money, they open a brewery and just do whatever with it. And so like, it must be that because there's so much innovation about beer in America, the best beer has to be from America. On the other hand, the worst beer is certainly also from America. You must have had some like cranberry chocolate beer or just some weird stuff, like at a. It's just like that didn't work. This batch, don't do that again. which they wouldn't do. I guess they wouldn't do in a country with like such an old tradition of beer making like Germany. Like they're not going to fuck up. Like they know what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think we had this conversation before about beer. Like the U.S. has the worst and the best. I think the amazing thing is all of our micro brews are really diverse, and some amazing beers are included. but our mainstream stuff like Bud and Coors and all of that stuff.
It's a style of like shit American beer.
Yeah.
It's a style though.
Yeah,
it's like what we do.
But they're that for whatever reason it's the stuff that everyone still drinks, like the regular go-to. Even though I out of principle I can't drink it anymore. But I think that the diversity and the craziness, we're willing to experiment, whereas countries like Germany are just like, no, we've been doing it pretty well for the last thousands of years. We're not going to fuck it up now by
because it's good beer.
Yeah,
it's good beer.
But
I mean, if you had someone made a batch of beer in America and you said, hey, this tastes like some German beer you had, that'd be a huge compliment. It's good beer.
Yeah.
What do you mean about why German beer is better though? Is it has more taste in it, or it's more
taste?
Versus Belgium. Versus Belgium.
Like versus Belgium. Yeah, I think Belgian beers can be good without a doubt. Like they've definitely but they consistently have a very strong flavor, and they're very high in alcohol content.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily qualify as a good beer to me. To me, a good beer is its flavor, and a huge part of that is also aftertaste, right? And I think that Germany consistently does it. No matter where you go to a small town and you just pull up to a bar or restaurant and you say, give me a beer. And whatever you get, it's going to be usually a really good beer, and that's their local stuff that they drink every day. It's just the consistency of it, too, that I just like that taste.
I see. So, people, beer, Germany.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. On to England. So, this is you lived in Germany first after U.S., right?
No, never lived in Germany, only visited.
Oh, visited many times, had a girlfriend, had some beer. Then you moved to London and then Singapore and many, many, many things in between. I see. All right, so on to England then. I don't think you're going to get the third beer. It's tricky. From 1066 till 1362, what was the official language of England?
Oh, French.
Dude, what the fuck? Name 2 famous English scientists. Actually, no, you're doing too good. 3.
3 famous English scientists. Oh man, I'm going to pull something out of my hat for this one.
If you just said some name, dude, Schlitzenhofer, like you don't know. I'm not going to know.
I don't know, is Marie Curie British? Or is she American? I think she's American.
I think she's American.
Yeah, I think so too. British scientists, man. I really want to say someone who's related to
let's get one solid one. One solid one we can definitely agree he's British.
One British scientist. I can't think of a single one, to be honest with you.
You can't? Single one.
I'm in London, sorry, dude.
Okay, fine. Look, chalk it up to a lose. That's fine. It's your first one so far. Question number 3. The British built what famous fort in Michigan during the American Revolution?
What famous fort?
Fort. Castle type.
Are you sure it was in Michigan?
I'll bet they built a lot of forts during the American Revolution.
Mackinac.
Nice. Fort Mackinac, that's it. Have you been there before?
Yes.
What's your take?
Yeah.
If you're passing by.
Look at it when you're crossing the bridge. Seen that?
Okay. What's the difference between Great Britain, UK, and British Isles?
Great Britain is... okay, so first the United Kingdom. United Kingdom is Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England. That's the United Kingdom. Great Britain is Scotland, Wales, and England. It's all on the one main island, and the British Isles are going to be like Jersey and Guernsey and places like that.
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. I've just got a map. So the only thing you really missed was the Northern Ireland is also part of UK. You just didnn't mention it. Should I give you credit anyway?
I did mention that. That's part of the, I said Northern Ireland.
I was looking.
Okay. Great Britain isn't part because Great Britain.
I guess British Isles is everything plus the smaller islands that aren't necessarily a country. So great. Okay. Statue. That's the question.
Statue.
A statue? Yes or no? A statue of Martin Luther King Jr. is carved above the west entrance to which English church?
Please repeat the question. I was just about to say 再说一次.
There's a statue of Martin Luther King Jr. carved above the west entrance to a church in England. What is that church?
I'm going to guess Westminster Abbey.
I think I really need to like gauge the intelligence of my interviewees like before I come up with these trivia questions because for most people this would be impossible. I think this is definitely the best anyone's ever done. So I try to not have like really obscure weird ones, but you reason your way through everything.
Yeah, but
If I asked you what years was French the official language of England, maybe wouldn't have been able to.
I'd guess I'd know 1066 for sure.
For real?
Yeah, without a doubt. But I love the history of England. I love the monarchy history. I watched a million documentaries, so that's the formation, like the forming years of England. So that's a bit of an exception for me. But I can't.
But you still would have got it. You still would have got it, at least. You would have qualified. Yeah.
But I mean, it's also different. I don't know what the other questions you ask other people, but for me, when you live in a place, right, you learn a hell of a lot about it more than you can just by watching a documentary or reading a book, because you can really connect the dots and you can really relate to it once you've been there. So that really helps. But I think for me personally, when I go to a place, I try to learn as much as I can. I try to, learn a little bit about the language.
Is it just being like emotionally invested in the place?
I think so, yeah. And it's also, it's a place you're living. Why wouldn't you want to connect with it? Why wouldn't you want to, learn about it, right? I think it also helps you to understand people and the history. And for me, I feel it did, like in Singapore. Singapore has a very unique history. And you can really understand people better when you're there. And it's the same everywhere you go. You notice, how history impacts the way people think and live their lives. It's an important.
So it sounds like you know a lot about English history, probably the history of a lot of places. But so could you give me an example, like how was English history, which I know nothing about, affect how are English people now? What have they been through? What have they been up to?
Yeah, I would say English, for example. I'd say British people in general. Okay. Bit easier than English, but British people in general are very mellow people in terms of. It's a bit overused. It's a bit of a cliche now. The keep calm, carry on is added to everything, which is a bit dumb, but it's very true to the British persona and what British people are. They're very, let's just get on with it, mate. We just have a beer, get on with it, and just, whatever, but let's just do it.
Like, as a culture, pretty easygoing.
Yeah, I would say easygoing in that regards. Okay, they like to whinge a lot, right? They like to complain.
What is okay?
Complain. You love the word whinge. Let's have a whinge, eh? But I think, like, in part of that is also the history too. Like, if you look at the Blitz during the Second World War, it just you've got no choice. You just got to get on with it. You just have to live your life. And you have an impending invasion from the Germans, of course. But you got to get on with it. And also their history with the monarchy too is. It's always been a power vested in the monarchy by consent. And that's one of the reasons that England has one of the longest surviving monarchies to this day, is because it's power by consent. There's always been a battle between, the royal family and that kind of power and the people. And whereas
by consent, what do you mean? There's been revolutions. There must have been, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean by consent though? Like people are okay with having a king? Or into it?
In general, they are, but it's and now what?
But now the monarchy is not like a real monarchy, right? They don't really rule it. There must have been a really long time where they did really rule, and people that really hated them.
Well, there's like a constant fight, I think, throughout history between the British royal family, the monarchy, and the people of Britain. Okay. The people of Britain have always tolerated a monarch to an extent, before rising up and before saying, all right, this is a bit, this isn't on. We gotta do something about this. Yeah. And so the monarchy throughout history has traditionally tried to exert a lot of influence and power, and that's never really gone over well with British people. They're fine and they're happy in their lives to kind of tolerate it until a point, until it really doesn't work in their favor too much. And
so there's like a lot of examples of them like not being chill with it, and then a revolution happens or something happens. The king gets murdered, or there's some uprising, or something.
I'd say rebellion is probably a better word for it, but yeah.
I've never heard this idea of like monarchy by consent. Not in the UK, not in anywhere. Never heard of the idea.
I think that's. I'm sure I'm not the first person to use that term. It's just how I view it for sure, though. And it's interesting throughout the history how they've got that. But you can still see it today. Okay, the monarchy doesn't technically have power, but in a way, if you look at it, the monarchy has a tremendous amount of power. They just they don't exercise it, basically. So even today, the parliament rules on behalf of the Queen. They need to go to the Queen for consent.
Really?
Yeah. So, for example, Boris Johnson.
For what kind of things?
Well, I'll give you an example. So, if I'm not mistaken, a prime minister is elected by the people. That's who's chosen.
Right.
So he has to go to the Queen, and the Queen has to invite him to form a government. Right. So
like to partner up with her, like as she rules.
Well, to represent her, and she's, it's her government. It's actually her government, but the thing is, there's no queen or I should say, a monarch in England who's going to say, "Nah, I'm not going to invite you. I'm not really too happy about it," because that'd probably be the end of the monarchy. But still, they're keeping that tradition alive, which is again a very British thing.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just run. You've been to a lot of places. Let's just run through some worst and best. Yeah. What's the worst place you've been to?
Two on the top of my list. I'd have to put Morocco up there as the worst.
Interesting. Instagram girls love Morocco.
Yeah, they love Marrakesh. I know. You want to know why? I assume,
Definitely.
Right? So it's been my experience. I've been there a few times. I always went everywhere I go. I try to extend my trip. I traveled a lot for work.
Okay.
So I'd always try to extend the trip, see what I can.
Can I ask, what did you do for work that you were traveling so much?
Before, I used to work in an aviation company. I did various roles in these different locations, but it was the same company.
I see.
I did a lot of training for pilots, for aircraft dispatchers, and then eventually kind of took over a sales team and an engineering team in Singapore.
Okay,
so it was
right on.
very travel heavy, like seeing customers basically, travel heavy job. Yeah, Morocco, it just never sat with me. And I don't give up easy on a place, but that's the only place that I'll say I never have any interest of ever going back to.
Because there's other places where you've went for a couple of days, had a bad experience, and you want to give it a second shot, see what's up, maybe go to a different place or have different experiences.
Absolutely. I gave Morocco 3 chances. I went 3 times, and after that I said, okay, if I'm absolutely...
Dude, you are very kind towards countries.
But yeah, I never liked it. Especially Marrakesh, it's just so... they're really scammy, I found. They really just try their hardest to make money out of it, and that's typical of a lot of countries they don't have a lot of money. But with Morocco specifically, it was just constant hassling, and some of them even got incredibly belligerent about it, I would say. When I was there, the food I tried wasn't too spectacular. It was okay. But it wasn't something that I have to go back to. To be fair, though, some experiences from people are different. That's just how mine was. They're just
even after 3 shitty experiences, you still give them the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe
it was your experiences.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably not, but maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, like I'm sure there's going to be someone out there who's like, "Oh, you're crazy. Morocco is fantastic for these reasons." I just never liked it. It never clicked with me. I always had a bad experience and a really bad time when I went there, and I was always really happy to leave. And so I'd be content just leaving that as something checked off on the list that I never need to see again.
Yeah. And there is this idea that, like, for any kind of idea, like a country, which is in some ways like an idea, not really like a thing. It's like hard to know like what is experiencing or knowing the place, right? Like it depends on the people and on you and the time and the place and a lot of things, right? Even if you're in one place for 52 years, what about the rest of the country? It's maybe different.
Exactly.
What's number 2? Is this tied for first, or can you rank? Can you rank?
I could rank a little bit. I'd put India as second, but I might go back to India. But India is a quagmire because India has an amazing culture, like some amazingly culturally. It's very culturally rich, absolutely, and some amazing food. Some beautiful places to see, beautiful scenery, beautiful, like the Taj Mahal to this day is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. But it's a quagmire. It's because on the other side, it is incredibly dirty. It is incredibly poor, and you'll see things that you won't see anywhere else in the world. And there are other poor places, but because the population of India is so vast, you go to a major city like Delhi, for example. At this time if you cross the street at about midnight, everywhere you go is just people sleeping on the street. It's just homeless everywhere you go because it's such an incredibly poor place. And it's unreal. It's hard to explain. Sanitation wise, every time I've gone, I've gotten sick. I had a parasite from India that lasted 4 months.
Oh my God, 4 months.
Yeah,
It was just like constant treatment, like at the doctor, or they didn't.
misdiagnosis at first.
They couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah,
I see.
they couldn't figure out what it was exactly, and that was kind of a painful experience. But a lot of the stereotypes I feel are true, right? Because I've experienced it, right? It's not a sanitary place. To give you an example, I went with my first trip in 2010, so 10 years ago. I went to India with some work colleagues. Mind you, we're going to a customer meeting, a business meeting, right?
Okay.
So I'm used to, I'm dressed up, ready to go. They are too, and they said, "Do you need to use the restroom?" I said, "Yeah, okay, come on, let's go." Thinking we're going to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
They pretty much just pull up right in front of a park like this and just pee right there, like in the park.
Oh, you just take a piss outside the car.
Exactly. And that's and this is like a business type of thing.
Yeah. That's the classy way.
Exactly. That's how everybody does it. But there's other issues too. There's infrastructure issues. It's a real difficult place to see and be in for those reasons. And also too, the people are so poor that they're very belligerent and aggressive. Obviously,
I mean, asking for money, trying to get stuff, stealing.
Obviously, I'm a Wygoran, right? It's very clear that I'm a foreigner,
As they say.
Exactly. And so I've got many stories of just people following me, even little kids as little as this actually hitting me and saying, no, you can't go until you give us money.
Oh, shit. Is that like doubly depressing, kids?
It is. I mean, it's nice no matter where you go. And what are you going to do? There's 100 million of you, you know what I mean? And it's difficult, and I can understand they've certainly got issues, but, as a tourist, that's not exactly an inviting thing. And I understand that or I should say, not only as a tourist, I was also there for work, but it's just one of those things that will not endear me to a country. It's dirt poor, and people are not only dirt poor, for how wealthy the country is, they really do a poor job of taking care of everybody. Like for example,
it's kind of like we were saying about Singapore, right? Small place, easy to manage. India is the opposite, right? One of the biggest countries in the world by several measures.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's part of it. I would assume so.
How do you feel different about like India? Your emotions. How do you feel different about India and Morocco? Yeah, it sounded like you have a little bit of like you don't really like Morocco. Like have a little bit of a grudge against the country for giving you bad experiences. Is India different or
a little different because there are redeeming qualities in India for sure. People are incredibly nice. They're very hospitable. I've just got some good memories as well. I've got some good and with the bad. Morocco, I can't think of a single thing that was ever really positive in my experience in Morocco.
It's really cool that there's like a billion questions I can ask you about your travels, and it's just the poor people watching and their time. That's it. Normally I have to really like delve in on like each thing you say. How do you feel about that? Like get more details. Like you have a gold mine. So best countries in the world. Best countries. These are the worst. Best countries in the world. America obviously number 1. So what would be number 2, number 3?
Obviously number 1. Well, I'll tell you, I've lived in Taiwan now for about 8 months now.
Okay.
7 months, and it is quickly clocking up to be one of my top favorites for sure.
Super dope.
Yeah, I would say Germany is also on the list for the reasons that I mentioned. It's also difficult. The more places you've been to, the more you see and how different it can be. It's really difficult. After I'd been to Germany, Germany was the best country in the world, and that's the only place. But the more
second.
you see... sorry, this is second. I forgot. I'm American, so obviously the second best country. But the more you see, the more you really appreciate and you like about a country, for sure. And everyone has a different influence and impact on you, and you think of things differently. I'd say the balance there is quite good with Germany still. That's still one of my favorites. Taiwan has definitely crept up there. And I quite like Vietnam, actually, too. Vietnam is...
I've heard a lot of good things about Vietnam. Another place people go and they don't say... There's not a lot of bad things to say about it.
No, not really.
What are the good things about it?
Obviously, it's cheap. It's really cheap.
That's cool.
You can get a beer for like 60 cents, which makes me very happy.
That's awesome.
And that's all you need to know. So
Finished.
Done.
The list of the best countries. My real question is, where are the cheapest beers? That's my true question here. Cool, interesting. Best food.
Asia, but you want to know specifically countries?
Doesn't have to be. I mean, I agree. The one thing I'm not into is Asian desserts, but I think as a whole, Asian food is really good, except for that. Living in Taiwan, I've been here 3 years, and people obviously want to know, Do I like it? Just specifically, do I like the girls? Do I like the food? That's what everyone asks about. And the food, I'm not really big on. Honestly, in Taiwan, I love. In fact, if I had one complaint about Taiwan, it would be the food. And one of the big reasons is I feel like Asian food is so good. There's just so much competition. Like you have exactly like Vietnam and China, Korea, Japan. Some of the best food in the world is so close to Taiwan. The one country with the worst food than Taiwan and Asia is the Philippines. It's the one thing I have to say. I think Philippines food is pretty bad. Taiwan food, there's some good stuff, and especially in Taipei, you can eat anything you want, so it's okay. It doesn't affect my life too much, but I'm not too into it in Taiwan.
I'd probably agree with you. I'd agree with you, definitely. I suspect that your experiences will be pretty similar to mine. Also, coming from a similar background, too, you're probably we'll have some of the same thoughts.
This is my first Michigan interview.
Is it really?
It's pretty cool.
It's really like looking into a mirror, isn't it?
Yeah.
And better looking.
Except, yeah. You've been to 60-some odd countries. You've got more worse food. Would it be India because you get food poisoned every time?
I will say, well, I have to answer your question about the best food. I've got to say Singapore, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Like Asia.
That's really surprising.
Yeah.
Because I've been to Singapore restaurants before.
Yeah.
And it's like fried pork and curry.
Did you ever go to a hawker center though? Like was it outdoor seating?
Nope.
Like
no, and only in Taiwan. I've never even been to Singapore. So
that's why you got to go to the hawker centers, man. Okay, so when I moved to Singapore, I was by no measure a foodie. I had no idea what I was doing, and I thought, they've got nothing on Europe. We've got Italy, we've got France. Singapore, man, is where it's at. Like Singapore, and the reason I think it's the best, right, is because Singapore will take everything. Like they're not the kind of people who just I only eat chicken rice. They will take burgers, they will take pizzas, they will take pasta, they will take influences from all over the world, and they throw it in one place. In a hawker center, for example, is the history
in single dishes.
In single dishes,
like the ultimate fusion.
Yeah, I mean they do that in some restaurants for sure, but even in some, I think it's really just a combination. Like, give me an example.
Yep.
A hawker center. So, just briefly, the history of it is street food is everywhere in Asia, as you know. Singapore, it was the same, and then to control sanitation, Singapore is really organized. They said, okay, you can have street food, but here's what you're going to do. You're going to go into one area. We're going to provide a roof over it. We're going to provide you with running water, toilets, and sanitation facilities and electricity, and we're going to regulate it and inspect you every so often. So basically, the hawker center is just street food in one location. It is dirt cheap, and that's where almost all of the locals eat. And it's amazing. So if you want satay, obviously I'm sure you know what satay is. You want satay, you want crab, you want meat on sticks. Okay, there you go. You want seafood, you want anything in the world, and it's there. And they have influences from Thailand, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Korea, from Japan, from all over the world. And you can find it there. And they love their food. So I think Singapore, for me, has to have the best food, and they know what they like, and I think every Singaporean is a foodie.
That's an awesome sales pitch, man.
Yeah, thanks. Now
a super good answer.
Go to the hawker center. I've actually got a list that I can give to you if you ever go to Singapore again, and I'll tell you where to go. All right. It's really good, man. Really good food.
A list.
So I love it. Super, super cool.
Okay, and
worst food is England. Yeah.
Love the country, not the food.
No, the food's all right. The thing is about England, like if you go to London, you can go to a great restaurant. Like you can get some great proper food because it's London. It's a major center. There's I think maybe 8, 9, 10 million people there.
Isn't Gordon Ramsay? He's English, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I know about English food is he had like a show going around England finding the best food. It looked dope. If you find the best.
Don't get me wrong, there's good food everywhere you go, and there's bad food everywhere you go. But it's the general staples. Like if you go to a pub, right, like a Wetherspoons or something. And I know anyone who's been to the UK or knows Wetherspoons will be like, oh, come on, that's not where you go for food. But it's like the run-of-the-mill stuff. People in England are just happy with satiating their hunger. They don't seem to really care too much about, like, oh, it has to be good. They're just like, oh, let's just get on.
That's a common complaint about American tastes.
Really? I've not heard that before.
Okay, so you'd say it's different, American and...
Yeah, okay. So I can't claim that I own this because my friend here in Taipei, actually, he's half British. We were talking about food the other day. He's half British, half Asian, so he loves his food. And he explained it like this, which I think is brilliant. He said, American food is just like maximum flavor on everything, which to me is so accurate to how American food is, because like if you look at Italian food or French food, it's very well balanced, and you know you've got everything. It's kind of measured, and American food's just like we're going full throttle, afterburners on all of this stuff. We're going to make it maximum. English food is just like, to give you an example, you go to a pub and you order a burger. Mm-hmm. They say, do you want chips with that or salad? Chips. Okay. And then they're done. What's the problem with that? Well, in the U.S., you go to a burger anywhere, even if it's a cheap place, how do you want it cooked? Right? How do you want their idea of seasoning?
What do you want?
Exactly. Their idea of seasonings is salt and pepper, basically. So I'd say
kind of like bland.
Yeah, basically. I'd say the run-of-the-mill average stuff is pretty bland. It's pretty just like it's there.
Those are surprising answers. England and Singapore. Really surprising answers.
But then again, I stayed the longest time outside the U.S. in those two countries, so I have a better idea of the food. So that could change based on experience, of course. But yeah.
Sure. Girls.
Yeah. What's your question specifically?
When you decide to... Okay, two different questions. When you decide to settle down and get married, where are you going to go to find a wife? And question number 2, when you die and are reborn and are 18 again, where are you going to go to lose your virginity?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think marriage and family, Asia's probably the better location. Because I think there's a really good balance there. There's obviously that stereotype, right, between white guys and Asian girls, but I think there's a good reason for it. I think, like, we kind of, I feel we're balanced in terms of our personalities for a number of reasons. I don't know if I could pick a country. Taiwan is really good so far. Taiwan has been a really...
Do you have any shout-outs?
I'm kidding. Next question. Oh man, I can get in trouble for that one.
And what if you're giving advice to an 18-year-old who wants to just explore the dating world?
Just travel. I mean, if you're a foreigner in any country, it doesn't matter which one it is. If you're a foreigner, people tend to be pretty interested in your story. So anywhere you go can be really good. It doesn't matter.
Just travel.
Yeah, just travel.
Hang out.
Just travel, yeah. Cool. And I mean, everyone's got a different taste, so, you just got to travel. Check it out.
What's the closest you've been to death in traveling / like mugged or robbed or held at gunpoint or something like this?
I've got 2, but I'll start with this one based in the interest of time. And if you want to hear about the other one, I'll tell you. But the first one was the most recent. That was in Medellin in Colombia. So I started, was there about a year, 4 months ago. And I was studying Spanish. Interestingly enough, it was in Pablo Escobar's safe house, the one where he got shot.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, they turned it into a Spanish school now, and I was there for 5 weeks studying. And we didn't even realize it until people kept taking pictures outside the house. I said, what's up with all these tourists? I said, oh, yeah, it's Pablo Escobar's safe house.
Where he got shot?
Yeah, where he got shot.
Dude, that's dope.
On the roof. Yeah,
that's super dope. Is there like a spot, like an X on the roof?
No, there isn't, because, like, obviously I'd understand. They're not really proud of the history, which I can understand.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They don't
it's
like
a school. It's a Spanish school.
It's a Spanish school.
Okay.
But I was there for about 6 weeks studying Spanish in an intensive course, and new to South America. I'd always wanted to travel. Never had to worry. I could take care of myself. I'm a dude. No big deal. I'm not too worried about anything. Do you want me to hold the microphone, by the way? Okay. I think your arms
some
getting tired.
exercise.
Yeah, and so I was walking back middle of the day, one of the safest neighborhoods supposedly in Medellin, in Colombia, and I was walking in a park by myself, just on my way back to my hostel where I was staying, and this guy looks at me straight in the eyes and he goes, I can't remember, my Spanish is getting a bit lax now, but he basically in Spanish asked me, what's the time? And he looked me in the eye, completely disinterested, and I knew immediately that there was a problem. I knew that it wasn't right.
Was he on something, or...?
I couldn't tell if he was on something, but it just felt really, really off, and I knew something was not good.
Okay.
And so I just kind of looked at him and I said, I give him the time, and then he looks at me. He doesn't even look at the watch, doesn't even acknowledge anything he says. And then I look to the right, and about 10 meters away is his friend who's running towards us. And I just thought, oh, fuck, I knew this was going to happen to me, because it's South America, right? It's got that reputation. So then I look down, and he's got a knife, right? He's got a knife pointed at me. And then so the next thing I know, I'm being robbed. So these 2 guys got knives on me. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm about to get robbed. I've got my phone on me, my wallet, but whatever. Just keep your cool. I don't want to get stabbed today. I've already got enough holes in my body. Don't need any more. So my first thought was, okay, let me just check to make sure they've got knives, because I'm not going to give up everything if they've got nothing on them. So I looked, and one guy had a blade right up against my throat, kind of on this side. Then the other dude had a knife right up against my abdomen, and I said, yeah, those look pretty real. I think I'm just going to have to give it up. So they took my backpack, and they took my phone, they took the cash out of my wallet. Sorry. They took the cash out of my wallet.
I'm monitoring, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably right.
Phone, cash.
Yeah, and then they gave me my wallet back with the driver's license and credit card. Yeah, that was my
nice
thought, because I've been robbed before, and I thought,
Like a nice robbery.
it is. It's gracias, because they know they can't use it. You may as well give it back. I actually said to him, I was like, oh, gracias. Give it back.
Crazy.
And the craziest part about that whole experience was, I don't know what went through my mind. I'm a very diligent student or whatever, but they started walking away with my backpack, and I remember I just came back from class. Hola, amigos, as they started walking away, I got their attention. Amigos, la tarea español, which is my Spanish homework. I was trying to get my Spanish homework back. They kind of looked at me like, loco, eh? Like, okay, whatever, fine.
Did they give it to you?
No, they didn't. They just walked away. I was trying to get my homework back of all things. I was like, I know you don't care about the homework.
But at least you want to show up tomorrow with your homework.
I did. I was really upset that I couldn't finish my homework.
You're a good student.
Yeah, I try. But that was probably the most...
That's crazy. Knives. Yeah. Any other armed robberies? Because that is intense.
None that I've been robbed in every place I've ever lived, with the exception of Taiwan.
Okay.
But that was the only personal one. It was usually like breaking and entering when I wasn't home, kind of thing.
I see. Something
generally
disappears.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Cool. Anything else you need to share about traveling before my final wrap-up questions?
It's one of the best things I think anyone in their life can ever do. It's the most enlightening experience, and it makes you realize how similar we all are, but appreciate the little differences that make us all... The little things don't matter in the big scheme of things. It's just interesting how we think of things and do things differently. But in general, you realize the more you travel how exactly the same we all are as people.
Man, that's touching. I'm going to put that on a Christmas card.
I've been rehearsing that for a week.
So you're essentially an expat, right? You've been when did you move away from the U.S. and have you been back for any length of time living?
I left 10 years ago, 2010, to move to England. Since then, I've been back, of course, for no more than a few weeks at a time, to visit family.
Yeah, hug your mom. Yeah, me same. What kind of American person do you think would enjoy this kind of expat lifestyle?
If you can appreciate something that's a bit different from the U.S., and from my experience, people who leave the U.S. and are expecting to have a Walmart on the corner and expecting to own a car and be able to drive everywhere, you're not going to enjoy yourself. If you keep an open mind and understand that there are some luxuries you'll give up, but there's also going to be some things that you're going to gain, then you'll have a great time, as long as you're open-minded about it.
So open-mindedness, biggest thing.
Absolutely. But that's true, I think, for any expat anywhere in the world, no matter where you're from. If you move to the U.S., it's the exact same thing.
Makes sense. There's people who come to the U.S. and they're disappointed that it's not Miami clubs in Michigan. Talking about these three countries specifically, what kind of a person do you think would like to live in Singapore? Or sounds like just everyone, but anything special they'd want to live there for?
The food, and to be able to, if you really like food, Singapore I think is the best. And if you want to be able to travel around Asia easily, Singapore is a perfect jumping off point. You can go to Vietnam for the weekend, Thailand for the weekend. Korea is a short hop away, relatively speaking, so is Taiwan. And also for money. I mean, Singapore, the pay in Singapore is fantastic. A lot of people go there, and the salaries are incredibly high. So if it's for work-related reasons, it's good to do a stint. I don't think many people would want to stay there for their whole life.
Just kind of too small.
It's the same things that I mentioned to you before. It's hard to connect with people. I don't think that it really has to do with the size. It's just the people.
Germany?
What kind of people would want to go there? People who are more into the European lifestyle of less focused on constant work, I would say, but people who want a good family work-life balance. You're not necessarily going to be very rich.
I've heard they give you money for having kids.
I don't know if Germany does, but it wouldn't surprise me, just because these countries have generally a lot of them are more interested in improving their birth rate, I guess. And in addition to that, they tend to be far more supportive than the United States is about giving you time off, like parental leave, giving you more paid holidays. Germany is a perfect example. Germany does a great job of looking after people. They protect workers and they protect people. Whereas I feel like in the United States, they're very They're much more about the company, you know. And if you could be rich, then you finally made it. But as a worker, you don't really matter so much. In Germany, it's the opposite.
I see.
find.
England.
If you like pubs and drinking
Cool. So we got drinking, family, Asia travel,
and food, yeah,
and food, and food. As an expat, is there any questions that you're tired of hearing people ask you?
What do you
Or as an American?
What do you think about Trump?
Do you also get? Did you vote for Trump?
Yeah. All of the questions that run the gambit of Trump.
Yeah. A lot of Trump related things.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever move back to America, or no, or don't know?
I think I will, but for the moment, I'm perfectly happy staying in Asia, staying international. But for one reason or another, I'll probably end up moving back at some point in my life. Yeah.
All right. Good shit. Thank you, man.
Hey, welcome. No problem. Beer.
You want to do any outro?
No, unless you have some specific ideas. Thanks for the beer, American style.